sure they are clean before you solder them, otherwise they won't stick. Yeah? If you notice, you've got little bits of black ink. We've marked your holes.
Steve Foster makes his living as a teacher at a girls' school in Cardiff. But outside work, there's another group of people who also call him Sir. For Major Steve Foster also commands a company of soldiers in the Territorial Army.
Okay, Pete, can you run a customer's network on that Sun workstation?
Rick Hughes works for a computer company in Gwent.
We move in as a platoon up to the section assault lanes. That's going to be section-level tactics.
In his spare time, he serves as a lieutenant with the Territorials. And the Aircraft Maintenance Centre at Cardiff Wales Airport, where work is done on jumbo jets, is where Andrew Lewis normally works. Private Lewis and men like him will be playing an increasingly active role in the defence of this country. It's 5:30 in the morning at an army camp in the American state of Oklahoma, and the start of the day for a group of Territorial soldiers attached to the 2nd Battalion of the Royal Regiment of Wales. They're over here to take part in manoeuvres with the National Guard, the American equivalent of the Territorials.
When you get fell out from your platoon sergeants A and B, you will do the outside areas, as there's dog ends everywhere. C and D in headquarters, you get upstairs and sort them out. They're in disgusting order. Are there any questions on that? Right then, stand properties everywhere.
After the customary dressing down by the regimental sergeant major, it's time for the real purpose of the visit, the training, to begin.
Hey, do your duties! Fall out!
The National Guard who've organised this training are also a volunteer force, but they play a much more integrated role in real-life military operations. Soldiers from the National Guard took part in Operation Desert Storm. More recently, they're involved in operations in Somalia. With the current cutbacks affecting the British armed services, the government is hoping to deploy Territorials in a similar way.
The National Guard is on a very similar footing to the Territorial Army in Britain. They're a national defence force to defend the national interest of America, albeit national defence of Oklahoma State, whereas a Territorial Army in the UK is to defend the national interest of the UK, wherever they may be.
The demise of the Warsaw Pact has prompted the government's options for change policy and the desire to cut back on the massive defence budget. At present, Britain spends £23.5 billion on defence. The government hopes to cut that by 12% in real terms by 1997. The reduction in the number of full-time soldiers reflects these cuts. In 1980, there were 160,000 soldiers. Last year, that figure stood at 135,000. And by next year, it's estimated there will be just under 120,000 regular soldiers. In contrast, the number of part-time Territorials is increasing. 14 years ago, there were 63,000 part-timers. Last year, there were 68,500. By next year, it's estimated there will be 70,000. As the Territorials become increasingly important, they're being trained to put up with the rough and tumble of regular army life. Manoeuvres like this on the rolling plains of the Midwest are an important part of the training of the Territorial Army. With financial cutbacks affecting the regular army, it's increasingly likely that the skills learnt here could be used for real. A composite company of between 150 and 200 Territorials is to serve in the Falklands next year. They're being recruited from Wales, the West Country and Northern Ireland, and the Army says it's been easily oversubscribed with volunteers for the 6-month deployment. The Secretary of State for Defence hopes it will signal a change, with the Territorials possibly being used to support United Nations operations.
It's been announced that the TA will have a bigger input into supporting the regular army, and we're sending units to the Falklands next year on a trial period, and hopefully we'll have more involvement in the future. So this sort of training would be extremely useful in the preparation for that.
The British government is travelling down a new road with its proposed changes to the Territorial Army. The biggest stumbling block to these plans is the problem that many soldiers have with their employers. It's generally agreed that in America the system is much better organised. National Guardsmen are given free college education, free health and dental care, and a pension. In addition, employers are obliged by law to give Guardsmen time off.
He's paid for his time, whether it be at drill or annual training, and there are certain other benefits that vary from state to state. In Oklahoma, we have income tax advantages or exemptions for a portion of their military pay. Some states have education incentives for tuition waivers for colleges, and it varies from state to state. We have federal law that employers for the Guard and Reserve that mandates that the employer must allow the members of the Guard and Reserve time off for their annual training and their weekend drills.
It's expected that the British government will be issuing a white paper to discuss these proposals later this summer. If the Territorial Army is to play a greater role in real-life defence operations, many feel the government should offer better incentives and make it easier for soldiers to take time off work. Following the example of the American National Guard could be one way forward. This is Mike Arnold for BBC Wales Today, near Muskogee, Oklahoma.